Alright, and welcome back to Talk in Depth. Today, the movie I'm going to be reviewing is Logan. Logan is the newest X-Men movie, which stars Hugh Jackman and Patrick Stewart. And I just really thought about that right when I said it, because I didn't really think about it, because I was so used to saying this when I talk about X-Men movies. This really isn't an X-Men movie, and I'm gonna get into that in a few seconds, but now that I'm thinking about it more, this really isn't an X-Men movie. It's more of its own movie, which I think was one of the movie's strong points, because this movie didn't revolve around any of the other X-Men films. It didn't tie into anything. Nothing built up towards this film. It was literally just its own movie. And so my mom was gonna come see it with me and my dad and my brother last night, but her argument was that she didn't want to see it because she didn't want to go to a movie that was basically built up around another franchise, because she hasn't seen most of the X-Men movies, and so she thought there was going to be something that, tied into it that wouldn't have made sense to her. And I was like, well, Mom, after I saw the movie, I was like, Mom, nothing really tied into this movie. It was literally just its own movie. Like, she could have seen it, having not seen most of the X-Men films. I think she's seen like 2 or 3, but she could have seen that and gotten what, the movie was trying to deliver. That's what I really enjoyed about this movie, too. It really was just its own movie. There wasn't anything that needed to build up to the story. It's really just about Wolverine, or Logan, who is literally just an old man waiting to die. He's been through a bunch of stuff. He's fought many bad guys. He's been on numerous adventures, and he literally is just an old man now. His healing factor isn't working the way it used to, because, if you're not familiar with the X-Men movies, if he gets cut, it just gets better right away. Like, literally the broken skin will just get better right away, and he's not hurting anymore, but his healing factors isn't working. Like, in the beginning of the movie, someone shoots him, and, it doesn't really work the same way it used to. So, like I said, he's literally just waiting to die. He doesn't have much going on with his life, which brings me to Patrick Stewart. Patrick Stewart, Wolverine, or Logan. I keep saying Wolverine, but it's Logan, because he's retired Wolverine, and they touch upon that in the movie too. He doesn't want to be known as Wolverine anymore. Get to that in a second. But anyway, Patrick Stewart is living with Logan and this guy called Caliban and it's Mexico, not New Mexico, but they're living in Mexico, and basically Patrick Stewart, or Charles Xavier, he basically has this brain disease that he can't think straight. I wouldn't say, it's not really that he can't think straight, but it's more like if he has seizures a lot. So if he has a lot of seizures, basically what happens is the world kind of freezes. It goes into this lock phase, or the area around them, in a mile radius. When he has his seizures, they go into this lock phase where no one can move, and he's just freaking out in his own head, and if it gets bad, crap's gonna go down. And so that was something that they really played upon in the movie. He has to take these pills so that doesn't happen. But let's talk about Caliban. Alright, Caliban was basically their other roommate, quote unquote, I guess, and he lives with Logan and Charles Xavier in Mexico, and he's this albino mutant. Now, I didn't really know a lot about Caliban going into this movie. I knew Stephen Merchant was going to be playing him. Stephen Merchant, I think, is a pretty good actor. He's really tall. If you don't know who Stephen Merchant is, I'm just going to tell you, he's the really tall character actor. You've probably seen him before, but yeah, he's this really tall character actor playing this albino mutant who's basically a hunter. He hunts down mutants, but he's a good guy. But in the movie, they try to make him like he's a bad guy, but he's not really. I don't know if this is a spoiler or not, but it's not really. He gets captured, kind of, and so he's kind of forced to find Logan and Charles, and they're treating him like he's a bad guy, but he's not a bad guy. He's freaked out. He can't go out into the sun without basically having to wear a million jackets. I don't know what kind of hat it was, but it was this cool cowboy type hat, very protective goggles, and a ski mask, basically. He can't go out into the sun, and so for him to basically be forced out of his natural habitat, it's really he doesn't know really what to do, and so he's being treated like an animal. So I thought that was really an interesting element they played upon with his character, especially since I didn't know who the character was. It made me feel for the character because, Logan. When Logan gets attacked all the time, I feel for the character because I know who Logan is. But with this character, I don't know who he is, and so I think it's really powerful that I'm able to feel for this character, even though I know nothing about him. On a quick side note, before I get more into depth about this movie, I should probably add a disclaimer. I'm not going to be talking about spoilers in this because I feel like this movie, you just need to experience it for yourself because of how good it is. And so I don't really feel like there's the need to talk about spoilers because I really don't like spoilers. And so when someone says something and it ruins it for me, it just really takes away from the experience. So I don't think I'll be doing that because I really think you guys should go out and see this movie. Sorry if you just noticed the sound change. I plugged in my headphones into my microphone because I didn't have it at the start of the video, and because I usually have my headphones, but I didn't use them this time because I wanted to see what it sounded like without the headphones, and when I was replaying it, it sounded really loud, and so I was like, I don't know if that's the way I want it to be when I upload this, but I didn't really want to go back and re-record all that stuff. So yeah, sorry about the sound change, if there is one at all. Maybe there isn't. I don't know, but let's keep talking about Logan. Alright, so let's talk about what made this film so great. And it is, I think, the big factor that made this film how good it is the R rating. This, I think, really, with Deadpool being rated R last year, I think it really opened the eyes to Fox to be like, we can make R-rated movies that are superhero movies. And I'm going to talk about why this isn't a superhero movie in a second, but I want to finish my thoughts on this. This R rating just really brought the movie out of its comfort zone. Because if you've seen the other X-Men movies or even the other Wolverine movies, you know, when they have Logan about to stab someone, they'll like cut away and you'll see a little bit of blood squirt out. No, in this one, like, you see what happens when he stabs the person, and it's graphic. Like, I really like that about this. I think it definitely made the movie more entertaining because you got to see what it's really like to be Logan. You get to see what it's like when he has to kill people and how it can affect him. Because, you know, it's one thing just to show Logan stab someone and you don't see it at all, but it's another thing to show him actually stab the guy and the effects it has on the person itself and the dude he's stabbing. So I think that's something that is really good about this movie, is the violence of how they didn't hold back because of that R rating. And another thing that the R rating gave us was cursing. Now, yes, everybody has seen their fair amount of movies where you hear a couple F-bombs, but I think this one, it feels more fun to hear these F-bombs because it's coming from characters we've grown up with. I mean, at least I grew up with them, and I feel like everybody's grown up with them. I mean, maybe I'm sounding like a total nerd right now for my friends in high school that listen, but you grew up with Logan. Like, if you didn't see any of the X-Men movies when you were like 5 or something, or even read the comics, like, come on, like, what was your childhood like? But yeah, we grew up with these characters, and so to hear them, you know, be more adult-like when we're slowly developing to adults, it's just, I don't know, it just felt really natural and good because it just shows you that behind closed doors, these characters really are just normal people. But, you know, in the other X-Men movies, there are a couple F-bombs or whatever, but it's not really like the way common language is used today, because most people use the F word a lot, or the S word or whatever, and so to hear these characters using them like adults do, or your friends, I don't know, something about it just felt natural, and I think that was really something that was fun about this movie. Because, I mean, yeah, we've heard Logan say the F word a couple times. I think in X-Men First Class he said it, but to hear Charles Xavier say it, like, I know people saw it in the trailer that were like freaking out because they're like, oh, that doesn't feel like Charles Xavier at all. But really, once you see this movie and you see how much of an effect, you know, being in the future has had on him and the disease that he has, it really feels okay for him to be doing this because of how, I wouldn't say trashy his life is, but of how sad it is. You know, he is just a sad old man, and so I think it just really works for him to be, you know, cursing in this movie. So yeah, that R rating really worked with this movie. The cursing and the violence, extremely good. But now let's talk about what I said a couple seconds ago about this movie not really being a superhero movie. It really isn't, because like I said, it doesn't tie into anything with other the X-Men movies. It's literally just its own movie on itself. You could literally just go into this movie not having seen any of the X-Men movies and know what's going on. And I think that's really good about it, because it's basically just a drama with some superhero characters thrown in that the movie focuses over. So I think that was really its strong point, because it didn't need basically a base to be built up upon, because the base is those other X-Men movies. It didn't need that. It literally was just its own movie, and I think that was a really strong point of it. it's literally just about Logan and how he's slowly just wishing, I'm tired, I'm old, I'm sick, and it's just my time. It's time to die. And then once this girl comes along, he's like, oh, I have to help her because even though I'm dying, she's still young and she still has a life ahead of her. And so I had to help her live up to her potential and not hide what she has, these gifts. I'm not really going to touch upon the villain too much in this movie because with most Marvel movies, everybody knows Marvel isn't the best at making the best villains. But this guy, I didn't think he was one of those villains, but I just thought, I don't know, I wouldn't say he was not memorable, but I don't know, I just don't really think when I'm reviewing this movie, I need to touch upon him. Basically, let me just sum it up for you. He's a guy that wants to capture the girl Logan's with, because he works for the government or something, and so yeah, that's pretty much it about him. He's a bad guy and he does some pretty bad stuff. I don't really think he needs to be touched upon that much, but more the rest of the movie does need to be touched upon. He did actually have this robotic hand though. I thought that was pretty cool because there was a scene in the movie where he's fixing his robot arm with his left hand because the robot arm is the right hand, and he puts it on his right hand and the fingers bend all the way backwards when he's testing to make sure it works. And I'm thinking to myself when that scene happens, that basically is just a green screen. The guy got a glove basically that's probably up to his shoulder or something, put it on, and they just animated that, but really it looks so real. So I thought that was really interesting. But overall, I thought the cast was really good for this movie. Hugh Jackman has just done such an amazing job as Wolverine, and Patrick Stewart has done such an amazing job as Charles Xavier. So it really is a shame that they are leaving, so they claim. I don't know. I have my thoughts on why, it's a little maybe you're not done just yet, but they claim they are, so if they are, that is kind of sad. But yeah, really well cast movie. I think, and I said this to one of my friends, I think Logan, in my opinion, surpasses Days of Future Past and X2, which are my two favorite X-Men movies. But yeah, I just really thought this one surpassed them because it's really in-depth, and I think, I've said numerous times in this review, it didn't need a base to be built off of. It was literally just its own movie, and so I think that's what made it so good and why I think it surpassed all the other X-Men movies, especially X-Men Origins Wolverine. That was a piece of trash. It's really weird to think about how bad X-Men Origins Wolverine was because that's in the Wolverine trilogy. That was the one that started it, and if you've seen that movie, it's just awful. It's literally terrible. There's nothing good. Well, maybe there are a couple things good about it, but overall, it's just a terrible film, and it's just sad to think that was a waste of a Wolverine movie. I mean, the Wolverine was okay. I thought the last act was a little cheesy with, the giant Megatron type looking outfit, but I really liked the Wolverine, but Logan was just great, so it's really sad that I have to live with a terrible Wolverine movie when we got two really good ones, and so yeah, it's just a waste of a movie, I think. But overall, I thought Logan was a really good movie. I think it's a proper send-off to Hugh Jackman as Wolverine and Patrick Stewart as Charles Xavier. I don't really think they should bring them back unless they really, really, really need them. But yeah, go check this movie out. I think one of the reasons it's really good is because, all the other X-Men movies like X2, X-Men 1, Days of Future Past, or even X-Men Apocalypse, that's just fun, destructive nonsense. But this one really isn't destructive nonsense because it's more of an in-depth story about how Logan is just slowly dying. And so I think that's what made this movie really good because even though the X-Men movies can be fun, destructive nonsense, they can also take the biggest character in the X-Men franchise of all time and give a story about him just dying. So I think that's really what made it good because it shows that they can do other stuff with characters too. So yeah, go check out Logan. I think if I'm going to give it anything, it's going to be an A+ or a 10 out of 10. Alphabetical or number scale doesn't really matter. I will come up with a rating system soon though. But yeah, 10 out of 10 or A+. I think this movie probably will be one of my favorite movies of the year. Definitely go check it out. Thank you all so much for listening. A link to my Instagram and Twitter down below, and so will my Snapchat. Go follow me or add me on there. Very much appreciated if you do that. And give me some feedback, tell me some things I should review because I need more things to review because I'm not constantly always going to the theater each week. And so I have a bunch of movies here at my house that I would love to review, but I just don't know if you guys would want to hear those since they're movies from a couple years ago or a couple months ago. So yeah, let me know if you would want to hear any of those. Other than that, thank you so much for listening because this has been A Talk in Depth. I wanted to add two more things because I forgot to say this at the other parts of the podcast when I was going to say it, but I didn't really want to go back and re-edit everything and, like, move everything around. First off, one of my parents' friends actually worked in this movie. I think he was maybe second unit director or whatever it's called. I don't know, but that was pretty interesting to see that he worked on this movie. So when I'm out in Los Angeles next week or something, maybe I'll talk to him. Maybe have my parents, like, be like, hey, tell him about this. So yeah, that's pretty interesting to hear. But the important thing I actually didn't touch upon was that there is no post-credit scene in this movie. Like, don't stay till, well, I mean, you could stay till the end if you wanted to, but there is no post-credit scene. Do not expect anything, because there is nothing. They literally told us the truth when people were suspecting, is there a post-credit scene? No, there is no post-credit scene. I waited till the end, which I always do, even if there is a post-credit scene or not. But I will add, there is something at the beginning. If you haven't heard what it is already or already seen it, because I think they released it online, it's pretty good. Like, don't look it up, because I feel like you have to be in the movie to experience it. But yeah, no post-credit scene, but there's that one thing. It's pretty good. I was really happy with it, and I didn't suspect it.